$60,000. That's what a new reclaimed heart pine floor in this width, this thickness, and this grading would cost just in materials to install in this home if you didn't want to sand and finish what was already here. Now this room right here and the entryway are white oak, so I'm not even including that in the price of the materials. But we're going to go through this job start to finish, show you what we're dealing with, what all we are doing, and see how it turns out. So we are sanding and refinishing this entire home upstairs and downstairs, but I am not doing any stair treads or stair risers on this job. You got to remember, everybody's got a budget. And just like I told the customers, there's no big deal not doing a staircase right now. We can always do that at a later date. And the reason I wanted to mention the price on what just the materials would cost, because I always get a lot of comments or even statements where people say it's easier just to replace the floor and cheaper. That is definitely not the case when it comes to any existing heart pine flooring, especially in the older growth. That wood is extremely expensive and it's getting harder and harder to come by these days. And in a lot of the older historical homes that we work in, by law in certain towns, we have to put the same exact thing back that was there originally. We can't go in and tear it out and install something like a pre-finished floor or something else. Whatever's there originally, we have to put the same thing back. And if you're a contractor that works in a lot of the older homes in downtown Stanton, you should know exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter if it's an interior job, exterior job, however it is, it has to go back almost identical. But once we got everything set up, start sanding process. I did have Mom start with the power drive just to see how it's going to do. A lot of times we do the entire jobs with nothing but the power drive, even these old heart pine floors. Did want to throw in a clip right here just to remind you that I already did the repairs downstairs and I already did a previous video on that, so we're not going to get into that portion. And that 50 square feet of wood was $2,000 just for the materials, not including labor, install, anything else. Like I mentioned, that reclaimed heart pine's like gold. But the power drive really wasn't cleaning up as fast as I wanted to, so we opted to bring in the big machine. Not a big deal. Kind of planned on it because this one's in pretty rough shape, and just wait till you see how much paper we end up using. But I'm kind of bouncing all over the home working. After I got upstairs ripped off with 36 grit on a big machine, Mom's still going through there with a power drive at 36 grit and 60 grit just to get the rest of it cleaned off and flattened out. And while she's upstairs, I take the big machine downstairs and continue with that process. I'm only making one pass with the big machine, just at 36 grit, nothing else. It doesn't matter to me how I run the big machine on this floor. It is in such rough shape, it's not going to hurt anything. I mean, this is 36 grit. I'm running actually pretty slow. And you can just see how uneven the floor is and everything else. So I'm doing a lot of the work, but it's still not doing all of it. And it took 4 36 grit belts to do this job. And there's really nothing left on there grit wise. I swear you could take that home and use it as toilet paper if you wanted. So I'm going to run it in the ground. But end of the day, doesn't seem like we got much done getting everything cleaned up. I wanted to show you all those light switches. I hadn't seen those in quite a few years. They're kind of neat in these older homes. And coming back in here Tuesday morning, I'm done with the big machine. I actually finished up with that Monday evening. I just loaded it up the next day with the ramp, stuck it in the van, get it out of the way. Mom's going to finish with the 60 grit upstairs on the power drive. And then I'm going to go through here with the edger. I'm just using a Logler flip. And I don't care what type of edger you use. It could be a Logler like what I'm using here. It could be a Super 7, a V2. It doesn't matter. On these old heart pine floors, regardless of what edger you use and paper, it's going to gum the paper up. Not only from what's on the floor, but also the existing oleo resin or sap that's still going to come out of these old heart pine floors. And I'm only running 60 grit first. I'm not dropping down to 36. I'm going to use a little bit more paper than I want, but I don't feel like edging this thing 3 times. That's how much paper it took just for this room. After I'm done with the 60 grit, I'm going to go ahead and switch right over to 100 grit. As you can see, it's going to do the same thing with the paper. That existing sap that's in the floor will always be there. It's never going to stop coming out. As long as that wood's there, it's always going to be there. Heat's going to bring it out. Even going through cutting all the corners, you can see all the corner disc I use just for upstairs. But now it's time to get mean with it in the detail. So I got a lot of thresholds up here at every doorway. Got to get all those cleaned up. And the best way to do that is with a scraper instead of wasting so much sandpaper. I actually ran an edger across the top of the thresholds, getting them all cleaned up. But on all the angled sides, I will take a scraper, get all those cleaned up, but I still go back through and sand them later with the oscillator tool, just like I do in all the corners. We're not staining this one or anything, so the only thing I got to do is take it up to 80 grit. Nothing's going to last forever, so we did go through a couple interface pads. They were getting a little old, and they will wear out, so make sure you always keep some extra on the van. We run them till there's nothing left. So once they fly off the machine, guess what? It's time to replace them. But as I'm doing all that kind of stuff upstairs, Mom was starting the power drive with 1680 grit downstairs as well. Same process continues downstairs, going through all the edging. Once she's got downstairs to a point she needs to, then she's going to go back upstairs and she's going to run 80 grit across the floor. This is our second to last pass with the power drive, so after this there's only going to be one more pass on the entire floor. And when we sand these heart pine floors, we actually are cutting out a pass or two compared to when we do like an oak or another species. And if you are the customer and you're going to remove all the existing trim, you better make sure too that you do remove all the existing nails. That is part of it. If not, I will charge you more and additional because I have to stop what I'm doing and get all that out. Because when I pull the trim, I make sure I remove all the fasteners as well. But we're getting down to the end of the day on Tuesday. I stayed here later. Mom went on a cutout. I wanted to get 36 grit done on the power drive. This entire stack was strictly all on the power drive. I did not run 36 on the edger. That's 212 discs. If you watched a video a while back, maybe a month ago, where I did the painted floor and I said that was the worst job we ever done, no, this one definitely takes the cake with the amount of paper and stuff we used. And that was after running 36 grit on the big machine, getting it all roughed off. But you've seen that paper and how much sap and everything else is coming out of these boards. You can literally only make a pass or two and the paper's ruined. It's not good for anything. But we're down to our last little bit of sanding here on Wednesday, so Mom's finishing up some stuff downstairs before she makes her final pass upstairs. I am going to be running the orbital around the wall before she makes her final pass, and then we're going to go back downstairs. I'm going to cut corners, get all that stuff done. Again, we vacuum up in between every pass. We want to make sure all the grit and abrasive is off the floor from the previous cut. 60 grit, we used 208 discs. 80 grit, we used 120. The Bone of Black 100 grit on the edger, 57 of them. And you can see how clogged up they were. And that's what we do with them when we're done. They are trash. Nothing else I can do with them. But same thing I did upstairs on those thresholds, I got to do downstairs. And this one here's white oak. Why they put white oak in the entryway and that one living room area, I have no idea. But it's common to see in certain homes from certain time periods where we live. This is why I like to run mesh paper on the final pass. So that's like a sap board right there. If I ran over that with sandpaper, that thing is instantly clogged up. Using the mesh on heart pine on our last pass really helps, and it doesn't clog up that bad, and the paper will last way longer. Customers did ask me to make a threshold here at that doorway. I did so. I didn't install it till right when all the sanding was finished. We'll just finish it in place. But there's some mesh paper again we were using on the final pass. As you can see, even the used paper is not clogging up, so it's definitely the way to finish sanding on a heart pine floor, in my opinion. But all the sanding is done. Now it's time to get everything vacuumed and cleaned up before we lay the finish. And it's comical too these days, and I always get people ask me if there's going to be a mess in the home we're done. Wood dust is brown. It's not gray. House is cleaner when we leave than it is when we get in here. Everything's hooked up to vacuums. You'll never know we were there. I had to show you the crack in the plaster walls in there and the baseboards. I know there's always people that want to comment about baseboards need to be pulled. So when you see walls like that, go ahead and pull it off. Make sure you make a video and let me know how that works out for you. Because you're going to have chunks of plaster coming off there, and you're going to be paying somebody to fix it if you don't know how to fix plaster walls yourself. Again, we're putting in a special molding here at the bottom, stained to match as closely as I can to the existing trim that the customer already removed. But the first coat we are putting down is Loba Easy Prime. We're doing this come Wednesday evening. Then we're coming back Thursday morning putting our first coat of Loba Easy Finish down. Then I'm going to come back around lunchtime on Thursday so I can braid around all the edges first, which I'm doing with a battery operated Festool sander, and I got a 180 grit diamond disc on there. I like to do that first, especially on these with a darker trim I got stained. Then I'm going to brad nail this in place. And I know there's things called a pin nailer, but a lot of the older homes we work in, it does you absolutely no good because there's a huge gap between the baseboard and the floors. So I got to use something with longer nails I can go in and catch. And that new section there that I replaced already with the new reclaimed heart pine flooring didn't come back quite as dark as what I hoped. So I actually put an additional coat on there with a little bit of tin in it just to darken it up just enough. We're coming back in here Friday morning. We go through, we're going to putty the nail holes because it got late Thursday and I didn't feel like doing it. I was ready to go home. And then we're going to braid this floor, and I'm using a Norton sand dollar. I only use the yellow. I feel the red ones can actually make the floor too smooth. Then we'll get everything vacuumed up. I don't like running a Tampico brush on these older floors, just to what you could pull out of the gaps. No, I do not fill the gaps on these older floors. There's only 2 products that would stay, and I'm going to charge you a lot more to do it. But I actually need to make a video on a section to show you the benefits and the negatives of it, but we'll save that for another day. But there it is after that final coat goes down. Now it's definitely flat, but this one It's not tabletop quality flat, and the reason for that is just because the existing flooring joists, they're not all perfectly level. So this entire floor, in certain rooms and areas, it does have some slight rolls and dips to it, but that's part of it when you get to these older homes. And it's definitely going to have some existing stains. What all's on the floor, I don't know, but they're not all going to come out. But here's going to be some before and after pictures, and at the end of the video, do a walkthrough, show you that. That entryway there actually had some red oak replaced at one time, so most of it's white oak, but there is some red oak in there. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, whatever you're seeing this on. It's greatly appreciated. I started making these videos longer, and it's definitely taking a lot longer to make these. Not really sure how my filming and editing skills are, but I'm trying the best I can. And let me know what you think of this job in the comments. See you on the next one.